it's me, Sierra, just coming in hot on a little Stay Positive episode. Look, if you are watching this on YouTube, I have to address, there's a big ass foam ball right in front of my face, right here. This guy is my new friend, kind of my co-host, if I might say so myself. The reason I got this foam ball is because, look, I'm a humble human, I don't have a lot of soundproofing in this wee little room that I record in. So I got this foam ball here to provide a little soundproofing. So for you audio listeners out there, that's for you. That's a shout out to all you audio listeners out there, right? To the video listeners, I mean, yes, maybe it seems a little strange, not the best investment to have brought this guy into the picture. It's kind of blocking my face, but trust me, it's a great investment, okay? Don't question me. Hey, before I get into this episode, I just want to give a little shout out to our episode sponsor, which is Hero Cosmetics. They make and sent over to me the Mighty Patch, which is kind of, I don't know if you've seen them. They're those little like round stickers that you can pop onto your acne and onto like a specific pimple, and you leave it on for like 6 hours or so. So just put it on before bed and it flattens it by the next day. So I have had some like stress acne in the T-zone, kind of between my eyebrows. And, I want to look good for the podcast, right? It's not just audio. So I actually tried one on. I put it on one like that was kind of in between here. And I mean, look, it's gone. It really flattened it by the next day. It also like made the redness go away, which is also really frustrating, and I've tried a lot of stuff in the past. I had a lot of creams and chemicals. I still do like kind of the Korean beauty product situation, which is every day and you do it to kind of maintain good skin. But if you ever need to tackle a specific pimple, the Mighty Patch is pretty great for that. If you're interested and you want to try it out, you can get 15% off with my little code. So if you use the code STAYPOSITIVE15, which is STAYPOSITIVE 15, and you go to herocosmetics.com, you can get 15% off of your first Mighty Patch batch. When you take it off, you can actually see all the acne gunk, all the little bits that it leaves behind. So, that's pretty fun for those of you who like to pop pimples and really see the results of your hard-earned labor, So be sure to use Stay Positive 15 on checkout when you go to herocosmetics.com. I'm excited because this is going to be a little solo episode of the podcast. What does that mean? It means it's just me and my shirt and my foam ball. And that's about it. I love interviewing guests, and I'm going to continue doing that as the primary way that I release episodes. But, every so often I might just want to throw in a little solo episode, keep you on your toes, you don't want the same old stuff every day, right? You want to spice it up. You want to throw a little sriracha in there. Sriracha it up, It's been a fun month, you know what I mean? Everybody's doing great. World's not coming to terms with how we are treating other people, things are normal. I had to move my phone ball a little closer to me. It's been really cool to see all the uprisings happening, Black Lives Matter protests, people finally figuring shit out, and that's a lot of fun overall. There's definitely been some bad shit that, seeing the videos come to the surface, but overall, right, it's like you gotta go through some pain in order to make it to the other side. My alumni of my high school are kind of banding together to figure out how to do more anti-racist curricula, and that's great because, I was taught some whitewash shit. We were taught in history, like, oh, the Civil War, yes, it was about slavery, but it was primarily about states' rights. States' rights. And it's like, I don't know, I think we should revisit that. And look, everything's like that. It's like, when I went to college, there were like literal buildings named after slave owners, Went to a very old college that was still steeped in a lot of, it was Harvard. It's still steeped in a lot of institutional racism, institutional sexism. I don't know. Everything that should have been gotten rid of a long time ago. But here we are. One interesting story I wanted to share with you guys from my perspective, might not be my story to share from the other perspective, but basically, when I was a junior in college, I got a fun little snail mail in the mail snail. A little envelope. You know what I'm talking about? Paper pen, little sticky envelope. What happened was basically I was on Last Comic Standing when I was a junior in college, and a inmate at the Attica Correctional Facility happened to watch it on TV, and he had worked in Harvard Square. He'd worked as a bus driver, and he kind of was like, oh, I should reach out to her because I'm also a comedy writer, and we share this common, idea that we lived in the same city, worked on the same campus. So anyway, he reached out. I got this envelope. It was from Attica Correctional Facility. And I immediately was like, I'm in trouble. I've done something wrong and they're summoning me. The day has come. Granted, apparently if you do something wrong, they're not going to send you anything in the mail. They'll probably come get you. So I learned that. Anyway, turns out this guy, hilarious. He writes a lot of comedy, different sense of humor than me, but like, so what, right? Everyone has a different sense of humor. He was a very, very hard worker, definitely working much harder than I was as a college student. And he reached out because he was a fan of comedy in general. He also was a big Leslie Jones fan. He had seen me perform on NBC and was kind of like, here, let's see if she'll respond. So we struck up a great pen pal friendship, talked on the phone a lot, and it was just really opened my eyes to learning about the fact that, look, somebody can get so screwed by the system. Like, he was a victim of the 3 strikes law, which essentially was like 3 felonies and you could go in for life, buddy. And he had 3 felonies, but it was like he stole a bike. He had escaped from jail when he was detained for stealing a bike through an open window. So not the best jail, if you might, if you ask me. And he, and then the police officer or the dude who caught him, they considered that an assault on that guy because he had to tackle. Anyway, anything obviously like could happen to any of us. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure, don't steal bikes or whatever, but like, people do it. It doesn't mean you should go to a maximum security prison for the rest of your life. It was also a maximum security prison because he had an escape on his record, which means you automatically go to a maximum security prison because they think you're suddenly some sort of like escape room prince. They're like, oh wow, this person did really well in escape room Altadena. That means that they should probably be placed with the rapists and the murderers. Good news though, a few years ago, he got out on parole. It's really, I guess, still tough because basically people who have just been charged like that, who are convicted of a felony, don't get to vote ever, and they don't get to work towards changing the system that screwed them. Overall, I was just really happy that he reached out, and I hope to have him on the podcast soon so that we can talk about it a little bit more. Another interesting thing to address is the fact that within the comedy community there's been sort of a reckoning, sort of a coming to terms with some realities, which is kind of spurred by the fact that a comedian by the name of Chris D'Elia has been accused by several women who were underage girls at the time of being sexually harassed. He would kind of badger them for nudes and all this stuff that, you don't do. The reason I think that it's really struck a chord within the comedy community is not only that, this happened by somebody who's quite successful, specials on Netflix, somebody I was a big fan of when I was a teenager, which is maybe a red flag there. But the fact that, I think we've allowed this to persist in the same way that like everything else in our world, we've just allowed to kind of, go on as an open secret. Like how it's an open secret that like we're just not teaching the right history in class or overlooking people's claims of racism or clearly looking past people's claims like these girls of a certain famous figure being predatory. It's the same thing as like Weinstein in the sense that like it was an open secret. And why does it keep happening in Hollywood? Well, maybe because these people are high profile. I think there's like also, a weird obsession with power and the fact that like it is kind of this amorphous business where people are rewarded for skill and talent, but oftentimes, maybe it's star power. It's something that's a little bit intangible, harder to track. So a lot of people exploit that maybe in a way that is accepted. And it shouldn't be. Within comedy in particular, we all know it's a male-dominated business. I've probably talked about it a lot, and I've had a lot of comedians on this podcast where maybe we talk about it if they're, women who have gone through a certain sexism or misogyny in comedy, or, the guys that I have on this podcast who are comedians. Obviously, I really, every guest that I have on, I care for deeply, and I think that they're really good people, and that's why I want to talk to them. I'm like, you got to share us your secrets about positivity and how you just do what you do. So I definitely stand by everyone who's been on here, right? As much as we worry about like, oh, who's the next person to come out of the woodwork to be like an evil monster, but in reality, some of these people, it sounds like, who do come, who have been outed, people around them know. People around them have maybe been hiding it or telling themselves, oh, it can't be true, but maybe it is, and I genuinely think that it has to do with sort of this blind ambition, like, oh, I need to do whatever it takes to be this level of my career. So if it's in comedy, maybe there's a certain sense of, oh, I need to play by these rules, please these people, be on good terms with these people in order to make it to the next level. And once I make it to that next level, I can be who I truly want to be. But the reality is that shit never ends. So, you end up getting people who are powerful, like a Harvey Weinstein or Chris D'Elia, honestly, right? And surrounding themselves with people who are willing to be quiet and hide their shit that's exploitative. That being said, I'm really happy about the women who are coming forward. I'm like, girl, you saved those receipts. I'm so impressed. Like, I don't even have enough space on my phone to save like my recipes from last year. It's also really scary to come forward. It's so terrifying that it's on Twitter, because you're just really putting yourself out there to just have like a million reply guys be like, but I don't know if that actually meant like he didn't know your age. It's like, dude, yes, I know this is an open platform, but like, let's think a little bit before we respond publicly, or you can, but it's just, you have to at least be a little bit considerate of the fact that it takes a lot of courage to come forward in the first place. So most likely, almost always, people coming forward are not lying. Personally, I'm grateful for the women who have come before me in comedy, because not only have some of them directly given me opportunities, paid gigs, stage time, whatever you want to call it, right? They've also like created more of a culture for women and for women of color, or, just anybody who's not your typical straight white male comic, to come in and be a little bit more comfortable. Granted, there's still spaces that are uncomfortable. Yes, I have had that. I started comedy when I was 16 years old in LA, oftentimes around a lot of comedy clubs that are male dominated by some of these men who are, older, more established, more powerful, more comfortable in that space. So I have been through the, usual shit that you hear, which is guys kind of enticing you with career opportunities and then turning around and expecting you to be their date or girlfriend or something. I don't know. Luckily, when I was 16, I looked like I was 12, and also sometimes my mom would come with me to these gigs. So it's like, what are you going to do? Hit on me? This little child in front of my mom? Like, honestly, you're closer to my mom's age, so like, hit on her. But also, she's married. Also, what? I think I kind of accepted this thing with comedy, which was, no matter what, you will always be uncomfortable wherever you work, doing stand-up comedy. Meaning, if I wasn't doing enough mics or shows or whatever to get more practice and to get better as a comedian, it was on me because I was being lazy and I wasn't putting myself through that discomfort. There probably is an element of laziness. Like, I fucking hate like leaving the comfort of my home, which is why the pandemic has worked for me in some regard. And I fucking hate trying to find a parking spot in the middle of the day when I've just been through like an hour of traffic. Sure, I'm lazy. But I would also say, like, yeah, it would be a little bit better if I was also going to a space where, like, all my buddies were at, where we could all kind of, like, talk and joke without me also feeling a little bit uncomfortable because there might be some dude who mistakes me as someone's girlfriend. Work is always better when you're respected in your workplace, so that's not a controversial opinion. And look, I love comedians who are, like, really changing the game, whether that's in the culture of comedy, but specifically, like, in their comedy, right? Like, people who are making newer jokes that are kind of, people might describe it as punching up, but just like using their perspective to take on things a little differently. And I think what's the norm oftentimes is comedians kind of going up and doing the same kind of like sexist shit or racist shit. And look, I do race jokes too. It's definitely an interesting line to walk, but I think that when you have when you're in a space like that, and then you have comics going up and being like, yeah, I was like talking to this chick, and then they're kind of like, it's kind of like, okay, I feel like you're talking about women like this, and maybe it works for that joke, but if that's like the theme of like what you're doing with all of your material, I don't know what you think about me, and I know things are just a joke, but like, I don't know, my jokes also have some truth to them, so does yours too, right? And at the end of the day, you're like, and you want to go to these clubs and you want to hang out and you want to be part of the in crowd, right? Like anything. It's like somebody described it to me as high school. It's very, it's like any social space in that sense. But, if some guy's like, and then this chick, she was like so stupid. Sometimes women are so dumb sometimes. And then, and I'm like, okay, cool. But am I gonna be friends with that comic after, if everybody's saying, and he kills probably, because sometimes, people find that hilarious. He kills, he comes off stage, and everybody's like, yeah, man, fucking love that joke about that chick. I knew a chick once who's totally like that. It's like, I don't know if I can honestly go up to him and be like, dude, I loved your set. Which is fine. I want to be honest with people. So it puts, it's already a weird atmosphere when you're walking in the room. Another kind of maybe subtler way we could talk about this is that, like, sometimes when you're a comedian who's representing a point of view that's not like the straight white male, you're oftentimes asked to go on stage after somebody who just made a joke aimed at your demographic, which, it can be a fun way to, like, oh, I get to roast this guy back, like, take back the power, so much fun, which is great if you want to do that. But sometimes you're not in the mood. Like, sometimes I just want to go up and do my 5 minutes. Like, I wanted to try out this new thing about the fact that I've got really sharp shin bones or something that has nothing to do with my identity. And then you feel like you have to go up and be like, oh, I gotta say that. I probably should address the fact that he said that, kind of weird, disgusting thing about Asian women or something. And I have to go and say, like, something about that. And then I can go into my set. And then by the time you're done, you're like, okay, I used up all my time. Anyway, no, again, it's rare that it happens for me, but I would say that it does happen, and it makes it awkward. It just makes the workplace awkward, and it's like, when you're working among your peers and your colleagues, you kind of want to have this fun rapport and be like, dude, love that joke about that chick. I mean, I totally know what you're talking about, you know what I mean? And of course, that camaraderie really isn't there between certain comics if they have different life experience. And it's sort of very prevalent to just go up and make fun of women and make fun of different races. And, if you're making fun of your own race, which I totally do, and I try to do it in a way that hopefully is okay. But of course, times are changing, and there are some jokes that I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't say that anymore. There is a certain networking situation that happens in comedy clubs that I think is less effective if you're not comfortable there. So here's a little fun example from my life. When I was like probably 19 or 20, I think I did a set at a comedy club that, went well. Let's just say everybody afterward was like, I like that joke about that chick. And of course, the chick was me. I do a lot of jokes about me. Anyway, so then afterward I got off stage, and this more established comedian was like, hey, that was really funny. I'm actually doing a couple shows at this other club. Would love to have you open for me. And this was a big opportunity. This, he was a more established regular at the club. And to me, I was sort of like, this is great. I mean, the first time I'll get to open for an established comedian in LA. And, what a fun opportunity. Maybe he'll be like a good mentor. We exchanged information, and then once I did, follow up and say, like, yeah, so let me know when those dates are, I can open for you. He proceeded to kind of then reveal that he was like, wait, now he's like asking me to travel with him as Babe? B-A-B-E. I was like, what is Babe in this context? Is it an acronym? Does it stand for best and brightest entertainer? I mean, that would be me. Thank you. But yeah, I was very confused what was going on. But turns out, yeah, he was kind of being predatory, and, I don't know. I just felt like I gave off there was like absolutely nothing in our in-person exchange that would have said that was even possible, except for the fact that I was a woman, he was a man. Somehow that was a thing. And he was also much, much older than me. If I was 19 at the time, he was probably well into his 40s. I don't know how old people are. He was older. He's not established enough to honestly bring this up because he's like not that big of a comedian, so it doesn't really do much, but which is a burn in and of itself. And yeah, I didn't save the receipts. I don't think I deleted them because they made me feel gross. Also, I only have 16 gigs on my phone. I do not have space for your creepy ass texts, So yeah, so that was kind of disheartening because I think what it tells a young comic is like, oh, well, opportunities that are given to you, are they about you as a performer and a talented person, or are they about you and your body, or are they about you in like a weird thing that has nothing to do with what you worked hard on? So yeah, it's not fun for anyone, even if they are a fan or a colleague. So, that's just my little 2 cents. But yeah, again, I'm very excited to have more guests on the podcast so that we can dive into some of these topics if they so desire. But overall, I'm just hoping that everybody's doing well, drinking water, stay hydrated, in the summer. Is it summer? What day is it? If I could leave you guys on the solo podcast with one special note, it's to advocate for soft pants. And look, they're not a sponsor. I'm not getting money for this. But specifically, the genre of pants that is soft, big proponent. I can't recommend enough. Look, I've got some soft, stretchy pants that I have basically just had on rotation this whole quarantine. And, people now are saying, oh, don't wear pants, no pants, da-da-da-da-da. Listen, I'm trying to walk by a window when somebody could see me. And that's when soft pants come in handy. I need a little stretchy butt. And listen, I'm hearing little murmurs here and there that people are hanging out now. They're maybe going to a park, doing a social distance hanging out without me. To which I say, okay, all right, I get it. But really, in this economy, that to me feels like a personal attack. I will say I did go on a little hike myself. I went on a hike. There were other people there, okay? Let's just say maybe we are best friends now, Did I talk to these people on the hike? No, I didn't. I made sure to face the other direction if they were passing me, wore a mask so I wouldn't be recognized, But, we made eye contact, so I don't know. Maybe what I'm trying to say is I'm hanging out without you, So, yeah, just think about it like that. A little FOMO for the road. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to this solo podcast, inaugural solo podcast of Stay Podsitive. Hopefully there will be more, which is probably not what you want to hear. But yes, I think it's true that sometimes it'll just be fun to kind of do this, namely because I don't do stand-up as much anymore. So I think to me this is going to be like a fun way to work out some fun little bits, little light tidbits about sexual assault in comedy. Kidding. Okay. Anyway, hope you have a good rest of your week and adios.